Hey, what is up guys, for coming at you with a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh discussion video. I'm sorry we haven't made a video in a while. I've been absolutely swarmed with work and trying to get as much work done as possible. So I can earn some money, which is always great. But they're coming back for this video because a lot of stuff got announced in the last 24 hours that is really interesting and changing and kind of like game changing to Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. So we knew that Master Rule 5 was coming, and they have announced it, and it is absolutely insane. So I'm going to touch on it just a little bit because the main bulk of this video I want to be about the new Traptrix Monster, obviously, because we feature Traptrix. They're one of my favorite archetypes, so on and so forth. But we need to mention the new Master Rule because it is relevant to the playability of the Traptrix XYZ we're about to talk about later in the video. So from what I gather, from what I've read, Master Rule 5 allows us to have as many fusion, synchro, and XYZ monsters we want on the field in our main monster zone without the need for a link monster, which definitely helps a lot of these older decks that really struggled or without, in link format, and also allows a lot of these archetypes that didn't actually get a link monster in these link brains packs to actually play. And it actually doesn't really hurt link decks, or I think pendulums are kind of the most hurt still by this change, because pendulum monsters, if they're summoned from the extra deck, they have to go into the extra monster zone if I'm not mistaken, and link monsters do still have to link to each other, which I don't think is a huge deficit for links. I think the whole concept of the link mechanic and the link monsters do, want these co-linking sort of things. I think Trickstars is like one of the only archetypes, so there's a few, but not many cards in the Trickstar link archetype want to be pointing to each other. They just, just do it because they're link monsters. Anyway, it's very interesting. So what do you obviously think about this? Let me know in the comments below. And the second, before we jump into the extras, we've got to talk about the new anime. The anime was announced as well. Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s being the, I think, technically the 7th series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters are considered, I believe, separate series to each other. They are both vastly different, despite having the main character. And the animation style is the big thing, I think, that's going to annoy a lot of people about this series, because from Duel Monsters through to Reigns, we've had this kind of consistent style of animation. Obviously update it, make it look a little bit better, but you still keep like the core designs. They look like, you see them and they're like, these are Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters, even though they weren't necessarily designed by Kazuki Takahashi. You realize that they are still based on the original designs he had for his characters in Duel Monsters, right? But ultimately, this is very weird. I've talked to a few friends of mine and they're saying they get either Digimon or Buddy Fight or Bakugan kind of style vibes from the animation style. It's vastly different, and I think a lot of long-time Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans, particularly Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime fans, are going to be quite annoyed by these changes. We also want to mention there is a new, obviously it's a new series, so there's a new mechanic and a new gimmick, and it's Fast Duels. And I don't want to get into Fast Duels, but you might want to check out the card designs for Fast Duels. And I think I read somewhere that they may be the future card designs of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't think a lot of people are going to like them, because they are quite, they're vastly different. But I think the quickest way to sum up Fast Duels from what I've read is it's Speed Duels 2.0. So another format that they're introducing, which I don't know if people are too keen on. Anyway, so now that that's out of the way, what are you guys' thoughts on these two new things? Obviously, Master Rule 5 being pretty massive for the game as a whole, and the new anime, and of course, Fast Duels. Let me know in the comments below. Now let's get through to the main part of this video that I want to talk about, which is the new Traptrix Link. The new Traptrix XYZ, and her name is Traptrix Aromes. She's an Earth Insect XYZ with 2200 attack and 600 defense. So obviously these add together as 2800, which fits the usual attack defense combination theme, adding up to 2800, with Sarah being the only monster that kind of breaks this. So she has 3 effects, and her second and third effect can only be used once per turn. Sorry, hard once per turn, but it doesn't say either player's turn. Maybe that's a mistranslation, but Rafflesia says, yeah, it doesn't say during either player's turn, so that's interesting. That may have been a mistranslation. I'm hoping it's in either player's turn, which it probably is. but I'm just going off the translation I have here. So her first effect is she's unaffected by trap effects while she has an XYZ material, so similar to Rafflesia in that way. The second effect is you can detach 2 XYZ materials from her to special summon 1 level 4 insect or plant monster from your graveyard, so obviously kind of future-proofing this and trying to ground it within the Traptrix archetype. Obviously you can splash this because she is just 2 or more level 4 monsters, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that's, detaching 2 to special summon 1 is not horrible. It's not amazing. I feel like it would be better like detach 1, summon 1, considering that you're limiting them already. But giving Traptrix more recursion is actually really powerful. It's something that they really only have on one of their monsters, which is the Aeneas, so that's actually quite nice. And the third effect is if your card effect makes an opponent's monster or monsters leave the field and send it to the graveyard or banishes them, you can detach an XYZ material from her and you can target one of those monsters special summon to your side of the field. Now, this is the effect that makes this monster really cool. So obviously fits in really well with the theme of the Traptrix archetype. You're going to be destroying or banishing your monsters with trap holes. But it's not just that, it's also card effects. So obviously, as we know, when Rafflesia uses her effect to copy the trap effect, it's technically, it's her effect. It's a monster effect that's getting rid of something, not a trap effect. So it's nice that this can combo off with that as well. And of course, her effect also helps trigger off Sarah, so you do get some nice combos there. And the thing about having Master Rule 5 as well is you actually can have Rafflesia and Aromes on the field at the same time, obviously without having Sarah, because originally it's very difficult to get. It was pretty much just impossible within, playing Pure. Would be impossible to have Sarah, Rafflesia, and Aromes on the field in an ideal situation as quickly as possible. So I like that Aromes does combo off with Rafflesia really well, but you don't specifically need Rafflesia on the field. As well as that, she's 2 or more level 4 monsters, so and it's not limited to just insects or plants, so if you have lots of other ways to spam out level 4 monsters and throw them under her to give her more power would be really great. Now, one thing I would really would have loved about this is a way to put Traptrix monsters or even trap holes, for example, underneath her as XYZ materials. I think that would be a really kind of unique way for this archetype to kind of go forth. I know there's paleos, which, are traps that become monsters that get used as XYZ material, and they do have their own gimmick. But I think it would be really cool if there was a way to put specifically normal trap holes under both Rafflesia and Aromes as XYZ materials, maybe with a card effect going forward. I don't know. I also wanted to mention that it does fit the same art theme of Rafflesia. Obviously, Rafflesia has the other 4 Traptrix girls originally that were on her artwork with her, and then the Aromes does have Sarah and Mantis as well on her artwork, which is really cool. This does also kind of confirm that we're not going to be getting any more Traptrix monsters anytime soon, unless they pull a fast one on us and be like, yeah, look, here's another one in the same set, because I should mention that these are coming out in, I think it's Flaming Eternity, something like, I can't remember the name of the set. It is the new set coming out in Japan. The one with the water charmer as well, and I think it's the first set through Master Rule 5. So she does look really cute, and obviously the naming would be of a thing in nature that uses a hole to trap their prey. I didn't look it up, but I will put the description. I will basically try and find out what it is and put it in the comments below, in the description below. If you guys are interested, you can check that out, because they're always really cool to talk about, like what they are in nature that they're actually based on, because they're all based on, obviously should be based on an insect. It's nice that we have and of course it's nice we have a beat stick, because prior to this our biggest monster was Atrax at 1800. But ultimately, when I'm, if I'm sitting there with 2 or more rank 4, 2 or more Traptrix, because they're all level 4, I have to ask myself, am I going to make Rafflesia? Am I going to make Aromes? Or am I just going to go make Utopia double? Like, I don't really see at this stage, just with Aromes on her own, there's too much incentive to make Aromes, especially if the translation is correct and it's not during either player's turn. There's pretty much no real incentive to make this, because the whole idea of the Traptrix archetype is for trap holes, and you're going to use trap holes when your opponent summons monsters. So I think that's probably a mistranslation. I really hope it is. If it is, let me know in the comments below, because the translation I have is, it's doesn't say in either player's turn. So, and it's not a quick effect as well, based on my translations as well, which is also really annoying. But she's pretty cool. I think she'll serve the archetype really well as an additional as an extra deck monster, because it just gives us more options to go into. In terms of other cards, I think we are going to get more Traptrix cards in this set, because obviously Traptrix was one of the cards that was one of the archetypes that was listed on the structure deck poll, meaning that Konami already had Traptrix cards planned. So they've obviously had this card planned for a while, because it takes a while to do really nice artwork like this. So I do think we will probably get some more traps, or maybe even a field spell. I doubt we'll get a field spell, but maybe we'll get a continuous trap, or like I mentioned previously, I'd like to see a card that lets us put trap holes that are in our graveyard underneath our Traptrix XYZs as materials, or gives us a way to use trap holes in our graveyard, because right now we only have one way to reuse those trap holes, and that's Diania. Of course, when she's special, we can set a trap hole from our grave, but it vanishes if we don't use it. So I really want to see a way for us within the archetype to have use for those trap holes in our graveyard. Obviously, we have Jar of Avarice that we can play that can put it back into our deck, but other than that, we don't really have anything. So what kind of cards do you think we might get to help support us in the future? Let me know in the comments below. As well as that, what do you think of Traptrix Aromes? Do you think she's a good addition to the deck? Will you be running how many copies of her? Will you be running in a Traptrix deck? Are you going to splash her in other decks? Do you think there's any point running her at more than one copy? Do you think you'd play her just for theme and you'd never actually make her? Because right now my head's kind of racking. Is like, do I actually max out on her, or do I just run her at like 2 copies and like never summon her? Like, I run 2 Rafflesia in my current version of Traptrix. I run 2 Rafflesia, but I'm probably never going to make more than 1, as Sarah's just enough on her own to kind of catapult the archetype forward. And maybe that's the point. They had to make a new extra deck monster that wasn't as strong as Traptrix Sarah, because Sarah is easily like one of the best Link 1 monsters out there. And with this whole new master rule, like, you don't even really need to make Sarah to make either of them, either Rafflesia or Aromes. But why wouldn't you make Sarah? She's just so good. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on all this? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you for my next video.